Hi, I'm Ed Amoroso from Tag Cyber, and I'm here with Chris Kennedy, who is the VP and CISO for AttackIQ. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Ed. Great to be here today.
Yeah, welcome to the city.
Right on. It was a nice trip down. It's a beautiful day outside, too.
So glad you came by. We had a lot we're going to talk about. Why don't you share just a little bit about AttackIQ, and then we can get into some of the more technical issues that I know you want to share.
Sure, certainly. AttackIQ's been in business for about 5 years now, incepted in 2013. Today, we are the industry-independent leading breach and attack simulation platform. The breach and attack simulation is a concept quantified by Gartner. I think it's a little narrow for actually what AttackIQ is, but in essence, what we are is we are an adversarial emulation platform. What we set out to do is allow customers to test their security controls by emulating known attacker behaviors derived from MITRE ATT&CK. So it's a really powerful capability to test your end-to-end security capabilities. Now, when I said it's a little constrained by breach and attack simulation, the platform's evolved to do a lot of neat and interesting cool
Meaning
things.
the category that...
Yeah, I think it's a little narrow.
Right.
We call it a continuous security validation platform.
Yeah, I like that.
And so breach and attack simulation is a part of that, where we actually emulate attacker activities. But we have a ton of capability within the product that allows you to actually validate common security control failures or configuration deviations that could be of risk that aren't directly mapped to an attacker behavior.
You still recommend people do pen testing in addition to that? Because it sounds like kind of a mechanized test capability. Does it remove the need for pen testing, or is it a complement?
No, it's a complement. Yeah, we find that that's one of our many use cases for customers that are adopting this concept within their testing organization. They use it as a leverage point or as an automation platform for red teams to be able to do either breach and attack simulation or security validation. And then that levers the pen tester to do more advanced capable things like application decomposition and things like that.
Makes sense. Now, to do something like that, there has to be some sort of baseline set of attacks or lists or something. Is there some framework or basis for the automation? What do you base the attacks on? Is there some structure there?
Yeah, I think that's been one of the most critical pivots that the company had made about 2 years ago with MITRE ATT&CK beginning to catch within the industry. Yeah. The company was one of the first industry companies to actually pivot on that, and we realigned all of the capability of the product to align with what MITRE ATT&CK is. And for those that don't know what MITRE ATT&CK is...
Probably a lot of people don't, I'll bet. Why don't you share with them?
So if you think of history, what MITRE created 20 years ago with CVE, Common Vulnerability Enumeration, it was a framework to actually assign known vulnerabilities and risk score and risk categorize for all known software flaws.
Right.
So now what MITRE has done about 5-6 years ago is they set out to quantify and capture within a framework all known attacker behaviors across the spectrum of the kill chain. And so what this turns into is a very neat and easy rubric for security organizations to map their controls profile, what controls they have, and what within the kill chain the attacker behavior would actually protect against. And it shows quickly within the phases of attacker behavior where you have capability and where you have gaps. So we pivoted our breach and attack simulation capabilities around that to be able to say this type of attack would exploit this type of behavior mapped in MITRE ATT&CK, and do you have a control to protect against that or not? And what we find is a lot of customers that roll out our platform and start doing that testing have a lot of great capability. They spend a ton of money on security, but it actually isn't protecting them adequately. And most of that comes from either an end-to-end failure, a protection failure is what we refer to it as in I've spent the money on the technology and I've deployed it, but operationally it has failed. Either an agent failed to report into the management console was misconfigured, the logs didn't get sent to the SIM, or the operator wasn't trained. And so it's very interesting. MITRE ATT&CK lends a great way to be able to quantify and see what that looks like across the kill chain. AttackIQ is a platform to then test and measure that. And what we find is that, and it's mirroring up to what you see in the press. If you, for example, if you read the Verizon data breach investigations report, 80% for I think 2017 and 2018, they had a great line in there. 80% of the investigations they conducted, the organization had the security capabilities technologically to actually defend themselves. But they still were breached because of configuration
Wasn't
or operational
tuned
failure.
properly.
Wasn't tuned properly.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise
And
me.
tuning meaning a very broad thing, as in the technology was either misconfigured or the operator wasn't trained or they didn't operationally connect all of the ecosystem together and have that well managed.
Now, this may be a dumb question, but I would think there's some attacks you don't want to do. Like there's some destructive things. Like you go to a point.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like how do you make sure someone's not, getting sick from the medicine?
Yeah,
so to speak?
it's a great question because how far do you go is kind of a philosophical question too. Within the platform itself, we have a do no harm philosophy and a great QC program that makes sure that the emulations that we run, not simulations, we actually deploy to production assets. So your point is very, very valid in deploying AttackIQ. Security really matters on the assets that your business runs on. Set up a lab, the lab often doesn't emulate production.
Yeah.
So we focus on production. And so you got to be careful not to make production sick, right? So we have a great program to make sure that what we create, but we also have an open platform. You can modify the emulations if you see fit. And if you want to take on a destructive behavior for whatever testing purpose you may, you have the ability to do that. But it's important that you have role-based access controls and release authorities and things like that. So it is in the art of the possible, but we don't provide it. The customer would have to build to it if that's what they chose to do.
It's very powerful. I would imagine that in addition to the full slate of commercial clients that I know you guys have, does government like this sort of thing? I'll bet you, I would imagine, like if I was working in military or something, this would seem like very consistent with the kind of operations they do. You've seen some traction like with FedGov and military?
It's really interesting what's happening across the Department of Defense right now. We have several contracts that are largely proof of concept or pilot based where
with the military.
With the military organizations.
Yeah, that doesn't
with
surprise me. You're an old military guy yourself.
I am.
Right?
8 years in the Marine Corps, built the Security Operations Center for the Marine Corps back in the 2000s. I've been an operational warfighter most of my career.
So it's comfortable for you to be dealing with them, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and it's wonderful to be able to connect with them in terms of the capability that we offer. Because what I found in working with those customers, specifically those service members, is that they need a better way to train. Their mission's a little different. They have a RMF or a risk management framework that they follow. Continuous security validation matters to the military services, but they also have a defensive and offensive mission to protect our nation. When I start showing them the capability of this platform and what it means for them, you can see the sparkle in their eyes where they want this in their schoolhouses.
Right.
They want to use this to train with every day. And so I expect that's going to be a real boom industry for us, and that we might be able to reshape how the military services train cyber operators. And I'm terrifically excited about that.
You mentioned cyber operations. I could imagine sort of the breach and attack simulation being not just useful for protecting infrastructure, but maybe like as you're doing training, like as you're taking people through engagements where you're trying to simulate a live sort of setting, or just doing training. Is that do you get involved in some training work? I bet you would.
So that is, I think, the use case that I see emerging within the Department of Defense first and foremost.
Training.
So we use that as, when I say within the schoolhouses, that we would deploy AttackIQ within the environments they use to train cyber defensive operators, and that we would use our platform to represent the cyber op for the attacker.
Well, it shows how you're doing, right?
Yeah.
In a sense. I know the first time you and I met and we started talking, I know the original concept had a lot to do with helping boards and executives know how am I doing.
Right.
But I think as you're training, like particularly in DoD, setting up some operational sort of mission or configuration or something.
That's right.
And then running the continuous controls on top tells you whether the stuff you've done is working. Is that how you would do it?
That's right. I think.
I like that.
I think
much.
you also mentioned the destructive component as well, and so I think it connects back into that, where you really want to train a cyber operator. You go as far as you can to the right of the kill chain, and make sure that the security technologies that the military services have deployed are actually working. You do this in a simulated environment to train, but you can go as far as you want destructively in those environments and make sure those operators know how to respond appropriately.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to significantly raise the bar for today. The way these guys and gals train doesn't have anything like this, at least from the feedback of the soldiers, airmen, seamen that we worked with.
You know, staying with sort of the military theme here, you guys had a cool thing with AFCEA recently.
Oh, yeah.
Right? What did you do? They did one of those Shark Tank kind of things?
That's right. So AFCEA International has a sponsored program where they have a panel of judges and they reach out selectively within the community to innovative startup companies that are doing cool and interesting things. And they bring them down to Chantilly, Virginia. They put them in a studio kind of like this.
Yeah.
And you have a 5-minute pitch and a 5-minute Q&A. And then they crown a winner, and the winner gets, kind of the
You
PR
had to get up
piece.
there and do your, spin through the pitch quickly?
We did.
How much did you practice that?
There's a part of me that hates to practice and just likes to riff, and there's another me like, where a 5-minute pitch, you better be airtight.
Yeah, that's not a long time.
So basically the train ride down and a little bit of haggling in the morning, but we won. we won it. So I'm
so
terrifically
cool.
excited to bring home an AFCEA award for the company, and it's clear to me the story is so resonant and kind of the way I pitch it. I'll give you the 30-second version. Think about the ways that we do security validation today. Temporal audits that we do largely within government once a year. You spend a lot of time in government.
Oh boy, sure.
Red teams are great, but they're expensive, they're hard to repeat, they're constrained by the talent and how you set up the rules of engagement. And so if those are our two key methods, blue teams and red teams and maybe purple teams working together, that's not sufficient.
None of them are continuous.
None of them are continuous.
That's the problem.
They only offer limited automation. Yeah. They're not directly mapped back to an adversarial framework like MITRE ATT&CK in most cases. You're seeing the evolution towards that. And so that's where we fit. It's the really wonderful way to say that we can improve this systems engineering problem, the way we characterize it. This is basically the way I talked about it at AFCEA. If you're building an aircraft engine, think about the instrumentation and the telemetry that the pilot has to know that aircraft engine is performant. We don't have anything like that in cybersecurity. So now that's starting to be born with breach and attack simulation, these capabilities where we can establish continuous capabilities to validate security functionalities are as you expect.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that. I hope they give you a nice plaque or something.
Yeah, a little trophy or something, but it's more about market recognition from my perspective. In 5 minutes, I can convince 4 judges that are the established CEOs and technology executives that we're on the right path. That tells me we're doing the right thing.
That's fantastic. Now let's talk future.
Yeah.
Where do you see sort of this type of work moving in the near and maybe more moderate term future for customers and for government as well?
There's a couple of really impactful areas. This technology largely was born out of the operational space. It was a way for Security Operations Center to embrace this concept of threat hunting, where you would stimulate the environment to know how to respond to it. It also, as we talked about, has resonance within the testing communities as well, like red teams and whatnot. I think it's really important that we leverage this automation to improve how organizations manage strategic risk. And what does that mean? So imagine if we could lay out a rubric using MITRE ATT&CK and connect that to the common security control standards that are out there today, like NIST 853, 171, 27,000, ISO 27001, and start talking the language of risk management informed by MITRE ATT&CK and leveraged by automated continuous testing. What does that mean we can do now? One, we can threat model exceptionally well in real time, directly connected through the control families. And I think that's going to be really, really powerful. I have a new emergent threat. It's mapped to MITRE ATT&CK in terms of the tactics, techniques, and protocols they use. That connects back to the control framework, and now I know what specific controls are impacted and what my risks are. And now I can overlay all those things together and drive my strategic prioritization around a real threat model directly mapped to attacker behaviors, communicated through my control families in the way that I manage risk today. I think it'll be transformative.
You think the framework managers, like you mentioned NIST, and I know you and I have talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I've even sketched out some ideas on that together. You think the framework, your sort of stewards and managers, what do you think they'll take to this? I would hope they would.
I think it's going to take some shaping.
It should be there now. I think it's a big miss.
You're starting to see it. We have a couple of partners that we're working with already, and there'll be a press release on that real soon, that have already done that mapping, and they're offering risk management services using AttackIQ as the heart of being able to do that. And so I'm starting to see it. I think the framework managers have an education around what MITRE ATT&CK means and how to better inform the control maturity assessment using automation. I also think this will stem back to your compliance and regulatory organizations. Think about, we talked about audits today. How are those largely handled? They're interviews, they're relationship managed. Wouldn't it be so much better to just provide in evidence with automation a dashboard of your control performance? Then the conversation is, why is that red and what are you going to do to turn it green, versus how I'm going to influence you around why the thing I don't have doesn't matter or does matter.
So this really goes from a nice to have to a must have.
I think it's a must have.
Yeah.
I think we've been flying blind for a long
You and I,
time.
because we do security, say that, but the compliance frameworks need to encode this.
Yeah.
Then it's not just must have from a security perspective, it's a must have from a paperwork. I know you and I both go paperwork.
I think that's a
but
really
it's
important point.
It is important
because
people have,
people today, our buyers see this as a thing that actually legitimately raises the bar for them.
Yeah.
But what they want to know is, how do I connect this into the regulatory side? Because
Correct.
that's where my channel funding comes.
That's what
for
has
security.
to happen now. Totally agree.
And so
it will.
We're going to make that connection. We're going to help them with that.
It's happening. I know as you and I continue our work together, maybe we publish something along those lines, a NIST kind of thing.
I think we should. I think we should talk about how we can, at the top level, influence the standards to embrace continuous security more articulate, in a more articulate way.
That'll be great.
And then compliance manager will have something to anchor to.
Yeah. Now, you enjoying your work at AttackIQ? You travel a lot, don't you?
Ed, I don't think I've ever been happier in my career. As a 20-year practitioner, carrying that backpack for an organization is heavy, and seeing the value of what this platform can bring, what MITRE ATT&CK can bring, it gets me up in the morning to know that I have an opportunity to not only build a great company, I can change industry. I think I can fix. I can't say fix all of it, but I can fix a very important missing component with what we're doing. And if we do that, I'll be able to rest well in retirement.
Well, you're a good evangelist for the company. I know you travel a lot. I think every time I see you, we're in a different state somewhere. But I wish you well. Thanks so much for sharing. As you guys make more progress, please come back and give us an update on what you're doing.
We sure will.
Again, thanks for stopping by our studio.
Great. Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, man.
Great to be here again.
And we will see you next time.